Today we have the honor of chatting with Ryan, the vocalist and guitar player for the band Lord Owl. I hope you enjoy. Hi,
Hey there.
how are you doing?
Doing good. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Is that a Dragon Force picture behind
It
you?
is.
Oh, I love
Indeed, it
them.
is.
I super weird. I had a dream about them last night. Just popped up in my head after seeing that. And I
No
can't
way.
remember. It was so weird. Okay, so it was supposed to be Dragon Force, but it was like these like pirates, but it wasn't like you know how there's like pirate and like Ailstorm. It wasn't, but they were
Right.
like literally old school looking pirates that were playing on this like wooden. I don't even know for sure how to explain it, what it was, and I was it's like that's not Dragon Force. That doesn't even look like Mark. He doesn't even sound like him. And they had two different vocalists. Weird. Super
So you
weird.
have like a Pirates of the Caribbean Dragon Force mashup going on.
Yes. Yeah, right. But yet they had like gruff vocals instead of Mark's like high vocals, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It was weird. It was weird. And then I remember I can kind of see the name of what they had a really funky name, but I can't I know there was a number in it, like 1,000 something. I don't know. Super wild, but that totally just brought back that wild ass dream I had last night.
Well, there you go.
How are you today? Is the normal
I'm
thing to
doing
say.
good. Yeah, right. No, but hey, all in metal. It's everything's good, man. No, I'm having a good day. Just getting through it. Excited for this, and yeah, I was just getting everything set up in here. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Just set up in my little studio here. So no, excited to be here and talking with you and everything else.
It looks like a really, really cool studio. I see some local pictures back there too. I
Yeah,
can't think of what they're called right now.
I try to collect all of the flyers from some of the shows
Flyers.
that, meant a
Jeez.
little bit more to us, but have some from like back in the day, like the old school ones, like Rip Chain and Half the
How
World tour,
cool.
touring. So,
How cool. How fun. Well, real quick, let's go to Fault Paradox because that's where a lot of those came from.
sure.
I saw that you guys were you kind of had a comeback last year, but I haven't heard anything since. Are you guys on hiatus or are you guys still going?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Fault Paradox is that once upon a time when we had originally founded the band, we actually made a pact that we would never change out any of the members, basically
Oh,
saying
cool.
that we would stay original members no matter what happened.
Oh,
And
that's
so
cool.
that's where we're at. So Terry, our bass player, he actually just had a baby. So
Oh,
congratulations to him. And so that's a really exciting time for him. And
yes.
Brett, our drummer, he's in a ton of different bands. He's in Divinium now and
I knew
drumming
he
for a
was in
bunch.
Divinium. He's in more
Yeah.
than that.
And Final Underground, he was drumming for
Oh,
them.
that's
Like, yeah.
right. I
So
forgot. Yeah.
he's a very, very busy dude, spreading
Yeah.
a lot of metal. And then Leaf, of course, our guitar player, he has just a ton of projects going on left and right. And no, it's really cool. Everybody's just really busy. And two, I'm really busy with work and school, and then of course Lord Owl and
Yeah.
bringing that around. And so, yeah, what's nice though is that we're never ever broken up. So Fault Paradox fans
Awesome.
can always rest assured there's something coming down. So our plan was, because we loved Fault Paradox so much and we just wanted to keep that alive, is we're planning on, once every 2 years or so, once a year, once every 2 years, we'll come out, we'll put together as big a show as we can find. We'll get all
Awesome.
the biggest bands we can. We'll put something together, just kind of just for giggles, but just for the love of it. But yeah,
So
so
cool.
that's where we are. So I wouldn't call it a hiatus. It's just we're kind of waiting for the right opportunity to present
Yeah.
itself to get a bunch of guys together to come play. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. Yeah. Um, That is me and my ex-husband's favorite out of the locals. We listen to
Oh
that
yeah,
a lot.
nice. Yeah, still to this day it'll pop up and I'll be like, oh man, that was good. This
So
is really
good.
good stuff.
It
What's
is.
nice about playing with those guys is we've been doing it so long, and one of the things that we really prided ourselves on was just as a band being really, really tight. All of our material was always just locked in.
Hmm.
And so what's cool with us though is that whenever we've had one, like the last show we just did at Treefort, we're like, okay, guys, let's get together. Let's see what happens. The first practice back, we hadn't played any of these songs in years. I'm not joking,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years. And we're like, okay, sounds pretty good, guys. Yeah, let's tighten
Um,
this up right here and we should be good. by like the second or third practice, we're ready to rock, and
Awesome.
it's like, and so that's cool. It's like anytime we ever need to spool up the old war machine, we could make it happen in a hurry. And so,
It's like
yeah, it's
riding a
always,
bike, right?
yeah, oh yeah. So it's always just kind of sitting there like a caged animal, just waiting for its chance to get out.
That's
But
cool.
and that's kind of true of the Reptilians too. Doing work with them, Bob has been super busy with stuff, and so it's when
And
we get
he is
opportunities.
not even around here either. I mean, he is
Yep.
what, 3 hours away?
Yep.
Well,
And so
two
that
and a half.
always adds some. What's funny though is that actually the last two Reptilians singles that we put out, all those were recorded right here. Basically with
Oh,
this setup right over here, nothing to it, just
nice.
um, and so it's easy for me to basically go, okay, well, give me the music, let me write the lyrics, let me work on the vocals, and then I kind of send them ideas. This is what I'm thinking, and then this. And what's funny about those guys are like, yep, do whatever you want. So I have kind of free license to do whatever I need. So
That's
there's
cool.
always that too. That's we're actually been talking again about putting some music together. So just kind of
Awesome.
waiting for our time to strike. But yeah, in the meantime, really focusing on Lord Owl, getting it to where it needs to be. We got a bunch of different shows that we're working on right
Oh,
now,
good.
and yeah, we're actually here at the end of the month. We're getting ready to go into the tonic room and record a single that we'll be releasing in March. So
Awesome.
we're hard at work, and two, for us, we had always had our stuff mastered at the Tonic Room, which is a fantastic local studio, and they've always done so. All the Fault Paradox albums, those were all mastered at that studio, and so now we're like, hey, let's do the tracking. So we're excited to try it. But if we try this out and we know it's going to sound great, and then what's nice is the way they have it set up over there, we can just come back and record on the same stuff with the same levels and everything. So looking forward to basically just nickel and diamond this album
Yeah.
apart and just doing one at a time and just kind of getting it together. But it's cool. It's fun to get to collaborate with guys that are here and local and give back and be a part of the community and part of the commerce that happens with all that, the interconnectedness of everybody. But
Yep.
two, for me with Fault Paradox, I was always very spoiled because we had Brian who scheduled everything for us, and I really was like, oh, booking shows is easy. Well, yeah, you have a guy who's really good at it, it
Yeah.
helps. And so now with Lord Allen, I'm kind of at the helm of the ship, and so I've had a really good opportunity to get really my hands dirty because that was something that I was never really looking to do was like promote or put shows together or any of that stuff. It was more I just wanted to show up and play. But then I
Hmm.
realized for this group, it's like, oh, now I'm going to have to do a lot of the booking and a lot of the coordinating. And so, reluctantly at first, I was like, I really don't want to mess with any of that stuff, but just actually booked two shows. So we have the CD release, or excuse me, the single release that we'll
That's
be doing in March, and that'll be at the Olympic. And we're
okay,
really
cool.
excited about that. And
Yeah, that's a
I
cool
guess
venue.
kind of breaking news, I guess. Yeah, we're putting together. It'll be with Los Malos and Whiskey Mountain, and we're
Oh,
really
fun.
excited to play with those guys. And kind of
Yeah.
too, it's like not just rock or just metal. It's like
Yeah.
rock, metal, punk, like all things.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, and then actually, I got a chance. So looks like we're going to be doing the Ninth Street Parallel on January 3rd. So right
Oh,
after New
cool.
Year's, right, but on that Saturday. So like right after everybody would be kind of be like, oh man, maybe the hangover from January 1st is gone. And by Saturday, they're ready to get back at it. We'll be
All right.
playing. Yeah, we're doing Faded Leroy is going to headline that. We're really excited
Okay.
because we share a band space with them. So our rehearsal
Oh,
space, uh, that's one of the bands. We have a couple bands in there, but really excited because we haven't played with them. I haven't played with them in a long time. And then we'll be doing direct support for them. And then we have Talon Smart, which is an amazing band here in the Treasure Valley, and younger guys that are really, really, really talented. And then we're going to have Reason Within. Actually, Dane Mullen, the drummer of that band, and I used to play in a band called Pachenda. And so it'll be cool to, get everybody back together and do all that. So no, but it has been a really cool opportunity for me to get to like coordinate with guys and like build those relationships. And, it's as simple as like getting group chats together. But
right.
it's cool that we have like this open line of communication that we can all kind of say, hey guys, here's what we got going on. But hearing everybody
Yeah.
be fired up and yeah, we're really just trying to interject a lot of life into the Boise scene. And
Hmm.
with Lord Owl, it's always been fun to work with Fault Paradox because we're pretty well known and really well received, and we've always been so grateful for our fans because they're just awesome. They'll come out of the woodwork, and I'm always surprised like so many people came to see us. I'm like, oh, this is a lot of fun, that with Lord Owl getting to build on it again and kind of
Yeah.
from the ground up, it feels like a little bit of a toil, but at the same time, it's work that I'm glad that I'm spending because, like I said, I'm getting to learn how to coordinate with people better and just looking to see how we can grow it. So a lot
Are
of fun, lots
you
of good things
connected
coming.
with Jake from Alaric Radio?
Oh yeah, he and I were actually just talking.
Yeah.
We text back and forth all the time, but yeah, he and I have worked on a couple different things. So he and Don Belden and I were the ones that really put together that Tree Fort show with Fault Paradox and Black
Awesome.
Marrow and everybody and Karen Comes Killing, and that was such a fun show to do. And so yeah, I've kind of always leaned on Jake and Don because honestly, the thing with the local scene is just there aren't a ton of active players as far as like people who are promoting and things like that. And so I
Mhm.
think that the guys that do that a lot of times get kind of like maybe not appreciated enough because it's a lot of hard
Totally.
work and it's pretty thankless work.
Yep.
But it's really one of the things that we talk about a lot in that kind of like inner circle is that there's actually a whole lot of responsibility on the bands. Like the bands have to act professional. The bands have to
Yeah.
be because and I too one of the things that I'm made gave me some like trepidation of like booking these shows that I just did is I've run into it before where you book the shows and then you get bands to agree to it, but they don't do any advertising. They
Yep.
just they barely put it on Facebook. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, guys, nobody's going to come to that. And especially in
Mm-hmm.
the Treasure Valley where it's not really known as a scene where like if you go to Nashville, Tennessee, like people go out every night to see music.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here in the Treasure Valley, you don't really have so much of that. And so you have to build an event that draws people out, that makes
Yep.
them want to get away from the Netflix and chill and actually come out, spend money. My wife and I, we went out on the town to go see the sword. And by the end of the night, we're like, God, we spent like $200. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So I get not want to come out. But what
It's
I'm
such a
getting
great
at is
show.
that yeah. Oh God, it was so good. I had the shirt. It was between wearing that shirt and my Olden Witches shirt, and I chose the Olden Witches shirt for
I
this.
wore the sword shirt yesterday when I was interviewing.
There you go.
Who did I interview yesterday? I can't even remember. I've done so many lately.
Yeah, you've been busy. I've seen it.
It's been nuts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I got the Warp Riders T-shirt, and
So did
that's
I.
yeah, that's a good one.
You for that tour, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got what else did I got? I got these while I was there too. One second. Yeah, I picked these up while I was up there. I don't know if you can see that one. So
Yes, yes. Oh, cool. You got a signed one.
sign there, but then of course, so that's the one. You know
Yes.
exactly what I'm talking about. That's the good stuff, right?
Yes, yes, yes. They're so good. I don't know if you know, but I'm really good friends with Kyle Shah. He actually is my guinea
Wow.
pig for all things Metal Nation. So
Yeah.
anytime I wanted to try something new, he's usually the one that I go to because first of all, he's awesome just about doing it. And second of all, I can get some, feedback and some revenue from because of
Yeah.
who he is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
he's a sweetheart. It was an interview when I was getting interviewed yesterday. That's why I couldn't remember. I was like, who was it? But it's because I got to relax and be on the other end of things.
There you go.
But we talked about how last year when I went through my divorce, how Kyle was really, really there for me throughout it and really helpful.
Nice.
So yeah, he's a
Well,
good
and
dude.
that's something that's so cool about music just in general. I've always found like even when I was a kid, one of my things that really attracted me to the world of music was just how much of like a family mentality it
For
is and
sure.
how all the relationships that you build a wall. That's really all it is. It's just a bunch
Yeah,
of people getting to know each other and getting to rely on each other and that's cool when you got people that are there for you. It's I remember working at the knitting factory. Brett and Terry and I from Fault Paradox, we all worked at the knit together for a while. It was a magical time. We
but
we called
yeah,
ourselves we
when
called
Gary
ourselves
was
the
there too, oh my
oh yeah,
gosh, it was
and
home away
I
from
got the
home.
I know it was, and it was so fun. We called ourselves the Knit Fits, and I remember working for Gary. There's one time a tour came through, and they wanted like something like 30 stagehands, and we in the knitting factory didn't even have that many people on the
Yeah.
production side. And we were running a show at the Botanical Gardens, we were running a show at the Egyptian Theater, and then we had a show at the club. And they were like, "We need like 30 hands for this." And I remember Gary having to go, "Well, we don't have that. Where you're gonna get 5 guys," and they just were so upset. They're like, no, this isn't going to work. And he's like, just trust us. Just
They
wait
could
until you
do
see
it.
the five guys that we give. And we did. We just took it and just wrestled it to the floor and, just made it our own. It was a hard day, but by the end they were all like,
But
"All right, we owe you guys a beer or something across the street." But oh man, and two, seeing your Mushroom Head interview, that was cool because that was actually made me think of one of my favorite days of the knit, and is when Mushroom Head came through, and I got to be the lighting director for that. So I
cool,
was the lighting
cool.
director at the time, and that was under Gary, so it was kind of that magical time.
Yeah.
And man, they were just the nicest people you've ever met in your entire life. It was the most fun day. It was one of those like by the end of the day, like your face just hurt from smiling and
Oh,
laughing and just talking junk, telling dirty jokes that just make each other laugh. But man, those guys put on a show. It was something else. It was so good. It goes down in history as like one of my all-time favorite shows was the Mushroom
that's
Head show.
awesome. That's super awesome. That's cool that you have those experiences and those memories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Lord Owl, the Reptilians, and Fault Paradox are three totally different, totally different projects.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, and Lord Al's actually started to take on a bit of a different flavor to it as well.
Oh,
So,
okay. Because
so
so your vocals are the most distinct in the local scene. You
oh,
have the
thank you,
coolest vocal style.
thank
So you can tell it's you. It doesn't matter what music's behind it. You can tell it's you.
you.
But yeah, with this project, because it's rock versus the metal,
Mhm.
um, you give me a Cat Stevens feel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I don't know if
Well,
it's the acoustic guitar with that too. I don't know for sure what it is.
right. Well, and that's kind of the fun thing about the way that this is set up is that there's basically three configurations in which I can play. And it's either solo acoustic, like you've seen some of the videos that I posted and stuff like that, which is fun because that means I can do really intimate rooms. I can do like wine tastings and,
Right?
like coffee shop gigs, which, whatever works out there, I'm happy to go, play some guitar and, try to turn a coin and entertain some people while I'm at it.
For
And
sure.
then there's the way that Jesse and I, who's a drummer, started doing it to where it's like an acoustic setup. So he's playing like regular acoustic drums, but he's playing them with the hot rods, which instead of like your standard stick, they're like that bundle of sticks. And so he can play full velocity, but it doesn't overwhelm the acoustic guitar. And so we have
Gotcha.
this like acoustic two piece that's been a lot of fun. We've got a lot of positive feedback, especially from other musicians being like, it's kind of neat. Like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
But the thing for us is that we've always really missed the element of bass. And so, where we were going, look, we just need to get back to the three piece that we were doing. And so, I'm actually tonight, we're going to go and practice with them. We brought John O'Donnell back on bass. And so, on the current recordings for Lord Owl that's on Spotify and Apple Music, that's actually a lot of my old solo stuff that I would play acoustic. And then the three of us, the reason we call the album the Paper Street House is because that was the name of the band. We called ourselves the Paper Street House
Okay.
Band, like reference to Fight Club. And so when I released this under Lord Owl, because it's all the same players and it's all our music, I decided to name it the Paper Street House as like in tribute to that. And which is always interesting because actually the title of it doesn't really fit. It's, because it's kind of some old kind of country and rock and blues, like a little bit of a fusion of everything. And so what's interesting is that now this music has gone through a couple different iterations. And actually, the single that we're going to be recording here at the end of the month is quite a bit more heavy rock.
Oh,
But
interesting. Okay.
there's going to be about six songs on the new album that are actually really heavy. And
Heavy
kind of to
like
the
Fault
point,
Paradox heavy?
no, not like that. Where Fault Paradox was always really rapid fire. It was always about like staccato,
Hmm.
rapid fire drums and vocals and that kind of like rapping, heavy metal screaming vocal that I would do. This is actually more like kind of opened up. It's like all like with elements of like even like sleep and all them witches and all those things.
Okay.
Like I love all them witches. It's just the fusion of metal and blues, and
Yeah.
and so it's not something that's going to be like. And we have some fast songs. We have some that are actually, I would say, they're almost more punk rock than
Okay.
anything else. But so there's a ton of dynamics. We got really
Awesome.
slow songs that are ballads. We got big songs that are slow and heavy. We have some songs that are actually really fast. One of the ones that we'll be putting on there is really quick, high BPM, And so the thing I'm trying to do with Lord Owl is not put us into any one thing.
Yeah.
And the idea is at this point, if I were to show you the stuff that we're working on, there's essentially a whole new album that we have, which is all in like E standard, a lot of open strumming sort of stuff, but more rock facing. And then there's a whole other basically dark or heavy metal album that's right there. And so my plan is to put it all out there. And so,
Oh,
but I haven't decided if I'm just going to let them all kind of be like an All Them Witches album where you go from like hearing harmonica and, mandolin and one track to just like heavy chugging and, but I always appreciated guys like All Them Witches and that they could be heavy without having to, maybe like
yeah.
in this big screen. And so, that's kind of the thing. I think I'll leave all the super heavy metal stuff to the Reptilians and Fault Paradox, but what I'm going to be coming up with here is going to be nonetheless heavy. And actually, I would argue that one of the ones that I'm coming up with right now is probably one of the heaviest songs I've ever written.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so I don't, and two, I haven't abandoned the scream at all. There's actually a lot of it where I'm doing like heavy screaming and stuff. So, and one of the things that I've actually found with this project is that it has really challenged me to not just do the same thing I always did. With Fault Paradox, I always had to compete with so much volume because one of the like key things about us is we're really loud.
Yeah.
And so, even just to be heard over all of it, especially with how fast I was doing some of those staccato vocals, I usually had to kind of project my voice up through like my nasal cavity. And so that's where you hear, and I did it pretty bad to sometimes I listen to the reptilian stuff. I'm like, God, I was really piping up through the nose um, on some of that. Because I had to be able to cut through all the frequencies for people to hear me. And
Oh.
especially at say like a live show, that was really important to have that. And so with this, I don't have to be so competitive with the other instruments, and it's a little
Mhm.
blended a little more. And so I really appreciated that. Like right now, I'm talking in my more natural, like baritone register. I'm actually able to do more rounded tones
Yeah.
and a little bit lower vocals. It's like, oh, cool. I get to play around with some other stuff. But
Cool.
there's been so many times as we've been writing that, be like, it sounds really good right here, though. It's a nice big, like big scream.
Yeah.
So
And you
that's
can do
getting in there
that.
too. Well, and that's what I love about this project is there's no really no there's no rails to this thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna write songs and we don't have anybody to tell us no.
Yeah.
And we'll just let the court of public opinion tell us whether or not something works, but it doesn't mean we won't play it. And so
Yeah.
yeah, we're just trying to come up with new stuff. But our whole idea in mind was that like the lineups I just said for the two shows, like we want to be able to play shows with anybody.
Yes.
And
Right.
we already have the ability of having those like three sets side by side. I mean, if we were to play all our music back to back, it's probably about 3 hours worth of stuff.
Wow.
And so it's a pretty big catalog. It's a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And two, we have a whole bunch of covers and everything that we do as well.
Hmm.
But I just love having a whole lineup being like, well, who are we playing with? Are we going to play
Yeah.
with some like super heavy thrash metal stuff? It's
Then
like,
we'll pick these
oh,
songs.
we're picking all the past ones, boys. No,
Yeah.
no room, no slow songs. You got it. No slow songs.
Right.
Nothing in E. We'll do everything in drop D. So, but yeah, it's fun to be able to because my idea is to try to collaborate with as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And just make the scene our own again, and just do it by putting in the work, doing the work to advertise and coordinate with everybody else. But then most importantly, giving showgoers a real show, a real product.
Yeah.
Think of it that way. Is I think a lot of bands will kind of just be like, oh yeah, you get what you get when you show up. Like I am like keenly aware. It's like, what is the product that we're going to be delivering? And so making sure that we're tight, making sure everything else is coordinated right. So when somebody comes and pops up any amount of money to go do a show, which is especially in a tough economy and everything else, is a bigger and bigger ask every day where food's getting
Yeah.
more expensive, so is gas. Like we want to make sure that that is money well spent. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of going back to what I was saying before, the responsibility that bands have when they're putting on these shows. Think of it that way. It's not these people coming and doing you a favor. It's that you need to step up, give them the best
Right.
possible show that they can get.
Right. Will make them want to get out of their jammies and out of their warm blankets to Yeah. My unsolicited opinion, when it comes to you mixing the two on the album. I think you should. I love albums like that to where
Yeah,
you and that's just my opinion, obviously. But when I can listen to an album and I don't know what's gonna come, I don't know what it is going to come next. I don't know what it's gonna sound like next. I
yeah,
love that because it keeps me interested. It keeps me
sure.
engaged.
Well, and I agree with that too. I always liked albums that are that way too. And then it gives you an opportunity to go not only hear the songs, then all of a sudden the order becomes very specific because it's like,
Yes.
well, we're going to open with this, and then we're going
Yeah.
to kind of, maybe calm down a little bit, and then we'll pick it back
Give
up
them
here.
a breather.
So picking your order and making sure you're putting the right songs right next to each other and that they worked well together. I mean,
Yeah.
that's such an important piece of the whole experience. One of my favorite things
Yes.
to do, I remember like one of the ones I have behind me right now is the Mastodon,
That
and
album.
so I remember seeing them at the Knit when that came out, and I remember when that album came out it was actually a really hard time in my life, and I remember sitting in my room and dating myself a little bit. It was back on CD, so I had my CD player, my little Walkman, and I had my drumming headphones, so it was totally sound canceling. And I remember just coming home and being like, "Oh, cool! It's a new album." I just put that thing on and I listened to it on repeat like 3 times in a row, and it was just totally immersed in it. So it's like
Yes.
the order of those songs, the flow of the whole thing, like
Hmm.
really takes you on a journey. And so I think that it's a cool opportunity to have a lot of dynamic.
Yes.
Because one of the things I remember, I love them to death. One of my favorite punk bands is Rancid, and I remember when they came
Mm.
out with the 2000 album, they had like 25 songs on it. And I remember listening to it with my buddies who were like super into Rush and metal, and they didn't like punk at all. They thought it was
Oh.
lazy, like
Uh,
they were kind of snobby. And I'm like, guys, no, check out. I was really getting into punk. I was like, come check this stuff out. This stuff like metal's cool. It's cool, but what about this?
yeah.
And I remember having them listen to that album, and specifically, one of my friends was like, "Is this the same song?" And we're like 10 songs in. It's like, oh, this kind of feels like the same thing. It feels like it starts at one end and just like keeps going to the end.
Yeah.
And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. Rancid's
Yeah.
fantastic. It was one of my
Yeah.
favorite albums to this day. But there's something to be said about, yeah, just having a kind of a roller coaster
Hmm.
ride and taking people on a journey. There's something cool there if you can make that happen.
I agree, and I think people are more apt to listen to an entire album because at this point, it's really difficult to have someone sit down and listen to an album in its entirety.
Right?
That's one thing
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that vinyl came back for because then, it's difficult to skip around on a vinyl.
Right.
But I mean, growing up, well, obviously with CDs we could skip around, but cassettes it was nearly impossible. Vinyls, you could, but like
Yeah.
you had to not be lazy and want to get up and do it. But usually, it was a whole you get the album, you sit down and you have that whole experience like you did with that Mastodon album. And it's
Yeah.
just not something that a lot of people do anymore. So I do feel like when they can get captivated into it, maybe it's a little bit more apt for them to do that. It's really sad because there is so much time and energy that goes into not only every song, you put your heart and soul into every song, but then into the order. And so when people are doing the streaming thing and just kind of cutting around, it's just kind of does a disservice to the albums.
Right.
But I get it too.
Sure. Well, and that's just it. I think that you really hit on it there is our culture right now is so just scroll and click, scroll, scroll, scroll. I mean,
Mhm.
the doom scroll gets us all at some point.
Yeah, oh
And
boy.
so the metric is what, 3 seconds? You got 3 seconds to hook somebody in on any piece of content you're putting out there. I mean, sometimes you gotta have a little patience and let things build, like, but that's just not how we're wired right now. And
Hmm.
there are so many things that are out there competing for our attention. I think it's really difficult for a lot of people to hone in because your brain
Yeah,
is wired to pay attention to too much all at once, and everybody's trying to stuff a ton into everybody's day.
yeah,
Tons of people are going to school. They got their work, they got their school, they got their kids, they got everything. And they're
yeah,
just pulled 1,000 different ways every other day. And I think that's, a big part of it. And so you go and you see Spotify. It's like usually if you can get somebody to listen to the entire song, just one song, I mean, you're doing good. And
right,
so, like, listen to the whole 10 song, 12 song album, like,
right.
that's
That's
a
like
lot
one
of time.
OS song though.
Yeah, I got to curl up with my jammies, and
Like,
my hot cocoa for that, just sit here and be like, all right.
Get
you
some
know.
coffee so I could stay awake the whole time.
Yeah, I know, true, man. And so, yeah, I think that, and especially like that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now with like doing this single,
Yeah.
is I realize so much of what we're doing in our society right now is designed to be bite-sized and designed to be this
Hmm.
quick little thing. And so I go, well, maybe that's a good opportunity for us to kind of release a single at a time. And
Yeah.
that's something that I'm really interested in, be like really focused just nailing one song to the
Yeah.
wall really hard because I'm going in and I mean every band does it. You go in, you do the whole album. I know a lot of musicians who have know what I'm talking about. It's a broad stroke getting everything done. It takes a long time to get all those details down and get everything real tight.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, my focus is like it's not about being lazy, not doing the whole album. It's like, look, as a band, we're going to be able to save a lot of money that will help us maybe to go on the road a little bit more. But then it's like, well, if we can do this every 6 months, just put a single together and then release that and release that, maybe that gets a little more traction.
I
Because one of the things, and I don't know, this is all experimental. I'm probably wrong. I'm wrong a lot, but
no,
it's just
I
something
think
we're
that
going to
that's
try.
the way the world is now. I really do. So I don't think you're
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, and so for us, it's just an experiment. We're going to give it a shot at with the idea in mind of like, well, we could spend the better part of a year, 2 years putting the whole album together all at once, get it all down, and by the time we're done, then you kind of only get like a few weeks, especially if you're not a huge band that has a ton of
Mhm.
publicity and a ton of, marketing behind you. It's a band like us. I mean, after a week, you pretty much lost a lot of your traction on
Mhm.
some of that. And so it's like I'd rather do that for like one song and really have that song hit. And
Yeah.
then we essentially take all the singles we record and make a compilation, then re-release it,
Yeah.
remaster it, put it as an album. So we'll see. We'll see. We got a
Yeah.
lot of songs to pick from, and so my idea is that this first single that we're recording called "Whiskey from the Mountain." We're going to be putting that on the album Whiskey from the Mountain when it's all written out. So we're going to release this one here, then we're going to go back, record the rest of them, and put it all together. So we'll see how it does.
Are you going to do a video as well? Or do you know yet?
Actually, yes, I'm glad
Awesome.
you asked. Yeah, actually, the same guy who did the video for Venus Love
Oh, okay.
here locally. I got with him, got his number off of her, and yeah, we actually so for the show at the Olympic in March, we're gonna have him come, and we're actually gonna put together a whole music video with that footage. So, which
Awesome.
is so much because I go like, well, what do you want to do? You want to see me in some music videos? Some I'm kind of like always get like the country music video scene stuck in my head. You just see me driving down an old truck. It's like something like that. I'm like, I don't know what to do for a music video. And two, I always hate it when you see guys like I'm a goofy guy, so it's like hard for me to be like, yeah, we're hard, we're all over here, we're like tough dudes, and we're gonna do something where we're in the woods. I don't know. Like it's so for me, I didn't want to do some stupid music video. I was like, how about this? We just get a video of us doing what we love, which is
Yeah,
being on
for sure.
stage.
Yeah. People like to see that too. So I think that's a good idea. It's funny. I think sometimes the harder the music is, the goofier the dudes are. Like some of
Yeah.
the hardest bands that I've interviewed are the nerdiest dudes in the
Oh
best
yeah.
way. Like I love it.
100%.
And so yeah, when you like meet someone like Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King is
Yeah.
such a nerdy dude, but he's on stage and he's a beast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny to like see him in videos and stuff of where you're like that had to have been so uncomfortable because you're being this like you have to act. It's not like you're doing
Yeah.
the energy on stage thing. You have to act like this certain person when really, you want to be playing Magic the Gathering. And
Yeah, right.
what they
Well,
should
too,
do heavy metal songs with them playing Magic the Gathering or
right.
D&D.
I would play. I'd watch that. Yeah.
I
Oh
totally
man.
would.
Well, it's true. It's like so many of my friends are metalheads. They're all just giant nerds. I mean, like on the other side of my office here, it's just all Star Wars,
Yes.
Legos, and V for Vendetta and Gandalf the Grey. It's there's something to it though, but I also think there's something very imaginative. And like the Dragon Force poster behind me is like that's
Oh,
goofy, but that's just my cup of tea.
yes.
And it's not to say it's like there's plenty of bands that are out there, that are just super heavy, super hard, and they can get away with it. But for me, it's kind of funny because even like with Fault Paradox, I remember we did the Tree Fort show. We had Kat put our photos together. Like she always just does such amazing
She's the
photography,
best.
and so we were like, hey, will you come get it? And we'll kind of get a photo of all four of us. She's like, okay. And we're and she's a great photographer. I actually just use her to do some headshots for my work. And so, it's just like she's great at everything she does, but I think
Yeah.
she was up against the challenge of we're just four goofy dudes and we're sitting there trying to be like, yeah, we're hard and we're like, just there's no pose in that we would actually look like we were cool, man. We were just all kind of like it's like, and so you just kind of lean into that and be like, but then we get on stage and slay,
All
and
right.
so yeah, I totally identify with that. I resemble that remark, I think.
I love that though. I mean, it's such a genuine thing. Like it's okay to be yourselves and be goofy, even though you are gonna potentially be different, like musically or on stage. I think that's great.
Well, and there's so much like for me, metal has just been such an important part of my life because it's been the catharsis in which I've gotten through a lot of hard stuff,
Yeah,
man. I mean,
100%.
I don't know how many metal albums got me through hard times, but I've also heard the studies and really resonate with them that there's like scientists going out and being like, actually, they find that people who regularly listen to heavy metal music are on average a lot less stressed. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, because it's catharsis. I mean,
Yeah,
you're there's no stress left because you get it all out, And
totally.
I think like a good example too is when I realized that I was getting older was when we opened for Trivium with Fault Paradox, and I
Yeah.
used to love getting in the pit, just getting. I'm a big tall guy, and used to get in there and just get after it, man. And I
Now you're like,
remember we opened for Trivium, and then I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I was like, oh, God. Like I was like, I couldn't help myself. I was like, I'm going in. My buddy's like, oh God, look at him go. And I went in there and I was good for like 4, maybe 5 seconds. It was like riding a bull or something. And I just went straight up, straight down, landed on my back. Thought I like broke my back. I'm like, oh God. I thought I was gonna die, but everybody's like, stop, stops the pit. Everybody, they pick me up. You okay? I'm like, I gotta get out of here. They like shuffled me out of there. I was like, it was such a personification of the world of metal all in one, where it's
mhm.
like you're sitting there and you get all fired up by what you're listening to, and you can't help but just like go and physically act it out.
Yeah.
But and it looks and it's this horrible, violent looking thing that I barely survived 5 seconds of, right? Which for me, I was like, dude, I used to run these pits,
Right.
I just it spit me out like I just like hit the ball bearing on a wheel wrong, And I'm like, a little humbling there also to say that those metal kids can still throw down, man. But I love
Totally.
that when somebody gets knocked down, everyone stop,
Oh yeah.
stop, pick them up. You okay? You're good. You're good. Okay. All right, game on. It felt like such a Wayne's World moment, and
Totally.
I remember I was lucky because we were playing the show, so I had the backstage pass, so I just like ran backstage, just like my back, you know. And so I'm sitting there in the back in a part we call Fight Club, that's back
Mhm.
kind of underneath there, and it's got all chain link fence and stuff behind the scenes. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, I'll never go back out there again, man. That was it. It's so cool. It's little stories like that, but that is metal. It's catharsis because even though that pit looks and is so violent,
Yeah.
it actually is not out of hatred or malice at all.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, it's completely fueled by a love for
It
something. And,
is.
and and the other thing I love about metal is that it doesn't matter who you are, your background, what you've been through,
Mhm.
any of those things, where you've been, and where you're from, you all love this one thing. And so you're all united in that one thing, regardless of your differences.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite things, and I won't ever go into politics, politics are for other people to have on their own time, is how I see it. But what I will say about it is that I have in the medical community, I know people on this side, and everywhere in between. And even though they would never in a million years get along when it comes to certain things over this one thing, everybody's just it all gets set aside, and
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Think that's kind of what the genre has been built on. I think a lot of us that felt like we didn't like belong or felt like we were different, that's where we all found our home. I think that's why the genre is such a pure and beautiful genre because it is very accepting. I
Yeah,
know that it has obviously gone through, and I think it's getting on the other side now, but went through a shift of where there was a lot of judgment even within
yeah,
the
oh yeah,
scene, which or within the genre, which was really bizarre. And I'll even admit I was one of them back in the day, but it does seem like it's getting on the other side of that now too. But yeah, it's just a very very genuine loving place. And now that my son's going to a lot of the shows, I don't worry about him when he goes to, I never have worried about him when he goes into the pits. Like
right,
I know that he's
yeah,
safe. I know that he'll be fine. The karate fighters make me nervous. I will say that.
yes,
that makes me nervous. I that when
Oh,
they're out there, I'm like, maybe don't go because I'm like, you're gonna get a swift kick to the temple and
yeah.
you're down, like you're knocked out, you know.
Just gotta
So those
learn some
ones make
metal and jitsu, man. Just gotta duck a weave, keep an
oh
eye
my
out.
gosh, yeah, yeah. I don't, yeah, those ones make me nervous.
Well,
But
too, to your point, there was a time I felt it recently too. I remember we were playing a show. I won't say any of the names involved, so but just as an example, sitting there with old friends of ours, an old band that we had played with many, many times, and we're just over here being like, "Ah, we're back at it. Look at us go, boys! Who'd have thought we'd be here? Not me, like." And we're just having a chummy old time. And there was a group that was kind of newer to me, at least as far as like I didn't know much about them. For me, I don't care, dude. We'll play whatever genre. All music's good. Like if you get in my truck and start driving with me, I know a lot of people say I listen to everything, but it will. I'm not joking. It'll go from Miles Davis straight to Mastodon, like we're going through the M's, and then but I have mandatory classical. So if classical comes on
yeah,
stuff, okay, you gotta listen to some Beethoven, man, and you just like.
yeah,
But I actually like it, and it's like
yeah, same.
that's the level nerd I am. But just to say, I love all music. All music has
Hmm.
its own place. But what was interesting is having these guys really ragging on, well, us. They were like, "You guys aren't even heavy." I was like, "Okay, cool. Like that's relative. Like I
We
could do
didn't
some
say we
super
were.
heavy stuff." Yeah, I didn't say I was. Exactly. I was like, "Yeah, we're kind of like mid-range heavy. Like your grandma could still probably listen to this and not like blow her eardrums out." But it's like, you want me to go do some of that stuff? We can, but that's just not this band.
Right.
I'll go dust off Zombie Nest with Nick McGarvey, and we'll show you some heavy stuff, man. And so it's like, it was just interesting though that was like what they were getting after is like you have to be a certain level of heavy to be cool. And I was like, and it's not that that's a bad opinion to have. I think that with a lot of that style of metal specifically, there's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
to kind of what I was saying. Like I'm kind of goofy, and I know that I'm goofy, so I don't try to fight it. But I think there's a lot of pressure to like be heavier, to be harder, to be more metal, and that has its place. But I
Yeah.
just didn't agree with their opinion because I was like, no, man, heavy is relative. And I mean,
Yeah.
like I'll say it again, All Them Witches has some of the heaviest stuff I've ever heard. And it's not because it's fast. It's not because it's crazy loud. It's because of the riff and those kind of things. But to them, they would say no, no, nowhere near.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, well, my favorite band of all time when it comes to metal is Meshuggah. So is that heavy enough for you, or
Yeah.
do we have to play Catch 33 or Bleed before
Right.
I get to come to your party? Like, and so I just hope that more people will be more open to other
Yeah.
stuff.
Agree.
But at the same time, it's true. There are bands where it's like realistically, and especially with some of the really, really heavy stuff, there really isn't a lot of room for other stuff to be there. It kind of needs to be at that volume because
Right.
I also remember when I first discovered Meshuggah, my up until then, my search as a musician was always for the heaviest thing I could possibly find.
Yeah.
And so I've been on that roller coaster too,
Yeah.
where I really didn't listen to anything unless it was, Meshuggah or somewhere around that
Mm-hmm.
level. But there's just so much other stuff out there too,
Mm-hmm.
and two, one of the things that I may be showing a little bit of my age with it is that I remember Black Flag, and when Henry Rollins quit, and they were like, "Dude, what would you quit Black Flag for? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "I'm just done singing those songs."
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't have that in me anymore.
Write
Like I
books
had something
instead.
in me, yeah, and then it's like I'm gonna go do this now, and so it's kind of like I felt maybe a similar kind of thing happened to me, where it was like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have this driving need to like seek the next heavy thing or to create the next heavy thing. I wanted to explore the other side where it's like,
Yeah.
well, and some one of the things that I'm really loving right now with Lord Owl is there's so much dynamics in it where I actually actively have to go, don't pick so hard, man. Like I'm in my head go like, hey, you don't. I'm like, oh, I'm digging in, and I'm like this doesn't call for that at all. Just way back, way, and then I'm like, oh, this is nice. Like you can actually just chill back, and actually, the more chill you are, the better the notes kind of flow through. It has a
Yeah.
different feel. And it was a hard instinct for me to break because I
Yeah.
had always been about getting that full throttle on. And so I think there's a big draw for that. So I don't know. I just think it would be cool too if we could just get metal to where it's like it doesn't matter. Metal's metal. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
genre it is. There's a
Mm-hmm.
millions of and there's no wrong or right way to do it. And there's just tons of stuff out there that we should all be celebrating. But no, I think I felt that for a little while. I felt what you were talking about too, where it was getting a little judgy. But I think now everybody that I've talked to, everybody's like, yeah, let's do a show. It doesn't matter what genre it
Yep.
is. Like, and even to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna have to like get these two bands together because these three don't make sense with these two. But then I kind of stopped worrying about it. I was like, let's just see what happens because
Uh,
maybe we bring a totally eclectic crowd, and I go like, I normally wouldn't have listened to that, but
yep.
because I came to listen to these guys, I get to try something new. So
Yes.
it's I think it might be abating. I think it might be getting better
Hmm.
in our scene because people are just actively going, yeah, sure, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yep. I
You
agree.
know?
I agree 100%. And I do think that that's what does make those shows important that like you said that you're doing the one with the punk band, the metal band and the rock band
Mhm.
because it is uh for everyone, right? Because
Yeah,
even if you go in there going for one or the other, you're still going to see something that like you said maybe potentially you wouldn't have listened to before and you're like, "Hey, I actually dig that." And you wouldn't have had
yeah.
that if you would have kept under one umbrella.
Sure. Well, and if somebody comes to that show and one of those bands and their genre really isn't your cup of tea, it's like, well, the good news is you only have to sit through one of them, and then we'll get back
Right.
to what you want to do. So, like,
I
but yeah,
remember
it's gonna be fun.
in the 90s, I mean there was a lot of festivals that would do that would mix
Yeah,
different genres and they were big festivals. I mean, I and again even just bands themselves like you're doing with Lord Owl do different genres even within the band. I just interviewed 0936 and he raps, he sings, he does harsh vocals, they have electronic music in there. Like he's like
yeah,
doing all the different things. And so same thing. If he's going to do a tour or a festival, he can fit anywhere, or they can
yeah,
fit anywhere. And
yeah,
it's cool to be that bands are starting to do that. 12 Foot Ninja, one of my all-time favorite bands, they
yeah.
mix so much different genres in their music, and it's
Right.
just amazing.
Yeah.
Mr.
Absolutely. Well,
Bungle.
and two, yeah, I know. I think it's getting to a point where that might be kind of the future of music, and where maybe
I
the
think so
not
too.
just our scene is heading, but just music in general is I
Hmm.
think more people are willing to listen to just about anything.
Yep.
And what's funny is that like the whole thing that started the Lord Owl thing, what started me off on the track of doing just under Ryan Grattan, just under my name, just doing it as an acoustic solo act, was because I was working at the Net, and then I watched a guy come through, and he headlined, and it was just him and his guitar, and it was like, this is crazy. Like I didn't know that was an option. Like how come nobody told me this? And then I was like, well, I play guitar. And so it was a matter of I literally like set my mind to it. I go get a guitar, got a pretty nice one that's going to be at least professional level. And then I made a point of every day I sat down and I worked. It was not just about practicing what I knew. It was about sit down, learn a cover you don't know, sit down, write a new song, and I would like actively like make myself sit down and do this work for this time. And that's what is on currently out on the Paper Street House album.
Hmm.
That is those songs where I mean I probably had like 20 or 30 songs that I had worked on at that time, and that's kind
Oh,
of what got
geez.
cut down. So I
Yeah.
cut out a lot of chaff to get to those, and
Yeah.
I didn't just put any old song out there.
Hmm.
And so that's where that all came from, was just me going like, oh, well, I can strike out on my own and try to do this other stuff. And I
Hmm.
think it was so contrasting from, the fault paradox being heavy.
Yeah.
And, so it was nice to be able to explore those other tunes.
I like the
And
singer-songwriter type of vibe.
right. And I got to explore a lot of different venues and
Hmm.
a lot of different shows that I otherwise wouldn't get, because that's kind of one of the issues with metal is that you can't play
Oh
just
yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, because I saw
Um,
that you played at Jumpin' Janet's quite a few times. And yeah,
yeah.
there's no way they're gonna be a metal band.
You can, but you're just going to blow everyone out. It's
Yeah.
just going to be so loud. It's and
Hmm.
that happens, man. And
Hmm.
so there's nothing wrong with it. There's purpose of metal. Yeah, man, we're going to blow it out. But realistically, that's a tough thing to have to kind of contend with. And so it was nice to have that other side opened up, and then it evolved into where it is now. And but what's interesting is that a lot of people don't know, but I actually have a lot of country influence. When I was a kid, the first things I was really listening to were country albums. And so even going to Nashville recently and all that stuff, I was like, I feel right at home with all that stuff. And so what we're writing now really has kind of a country flavor. And what I wanted to be is like heavy rock with like a country flavoring, but every once in a while just tips right over into the metal genre, and just gets heavy. And so being able to do all those different things and play around with those different kind of tones and be dynamic, but also to bring in, a bit of country flavor to the rock and the metal music is really what I think is going to set us apart, because that's something I'm actively trying to cultivate a little bit more. Matter of fact, one of the songs we're working on right now, I'm like, yeah, you could do the power chords here, and it sounds quite a bit more rocky, like quite a bit more heavy. I was like, what if you do the full open chords with it, like the actual like fretted chords, then it gives us this country flavor. And I was like, I kind of want that. Let's do that flavor. And so we were like actively making choices to lean towards those things, but also we actively make those choices to go like, and now we go heavy. We
Oh,
go light long
fun.
enough to have some songs that are meant even for another crowd, but you get mixed in with everything else. But then, like I said, if we go to open for a heavy metal band and it's full on thrash, and yeah, we're gonna just pick 10 of our fastest ones. And hey, man, it might not be your level of metal, but we got some stuff that I think you'll like.
Yeah.
And two, what's fun for me is that I get to be very dynamic as a vocalist
Yes.
because I can sing, I can do the rap, I can sing, I can do all that sort of stuff, and then I have my screams as well. So for me, I get to kind of pick my flavor for the night and be like, okay, so who all we have here? Oh, a lot of metalheads. All right, well, I know I'm screaming tonight,
Yeah.
and then you
Right.
just really cater the performance to them,
Yeah.
and because it's like, well, I think you'll like this. And then two, we as a band, we look at each other like, all right, boys, pick it up. This is a
Right.
lively crowd. Let's keep them going.
Yeah.
Because I think so much too of shows like that is it's just like how we were talking about the song order on an album and how it builds your flow and how everything feels. It's the same for a show. Putting
Hmm.
the band that fits in the right spot and go, who's going to be a
Hmm.
really good opener for this? Who's going to be really good as a direct support leading into the headlining band. Like that's such an important thing to really dial in because it's going to change the whole flow of your whole show. So if you have a band like us stuffed in between a bunch of super heavy metal bands, it's like, it might not be a good idea. Maybe
Right.
let's open the show for you.
Right.
We'll open, we'll just gonna be like, all right, that's enough of us. You guys go watch what you want to watch. Thanks for your time, sort of deal, and just kind of take it and leave it. I think that if bands were willing to kind of think about those elements a little bit
Hmm.
more, then maybe crowds would be a little more well receiving. But kind of goes back to saying how this is all about a big collaboration. It's finding out what works, and but
Hmm.
everybody kind of has to play an active role in that whole
Hmm.
process. You know,
Right.
but yeah,
That's awesome. Well, I'm super looking forward to hearing the single that's coming out and what you guys are going to be doing moving forward. Um,
yeah.
so you said like every 6 months you're thinking about doing a single, so it's going to be a little while before the album probably comes together and is
And we'll
released.
see. Yeah, we'll see. That's kind of the plan right now. I'm maybe putting a little bit of the cart before the horse, and but realistically, I'm going to play it the way that I think um, makes sense to our gut when
Yeah.
we're doing it. So it may just be I go, no, let's just go and get the rest of it done and do it
Hmm.
all once, and then just be done with it. Or maybe like, hey, that pretty good. Yeah, we'll see you in 6 months.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll play it by ear because the other thing for me is I struggle with patience, and so I may just go like, you know what, that sounded like a good idea, but let's knock this puppy out. But no, I'm
Not waiting
really
another 6 months.
excited. Yeah, we're probably won't. Well, the music's all ready right now, so that's the other
Oh,
part.
okay.
Is
Oh,
if we
yeah.
didn't have the music together, then I'd be like, well, we'll get it, but it's all written.
Oh, yeah.
At this stage, we have two full albums that are written and ready to go, and
Wow.
so
Oh,
and
yeah.
12
The,
songs.
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm like, it's just a matter of really just the funds to get it done. And so that's what some of these shows
Hmm.
that we're booking are going to be to do, are basically fundraiser gigs. So whatever
Yeah.
we make from any of that, from merch or everything else, is just going to go right back in the coffers to
Yeah.
try to pay for more recording. But we're here to do it right, and we're really excited. And it is. It was very interesting coming from my experience with Fault Paradox and really feeling like I'd almost like given point in time, I felt like we would be swatting away shows, being like, oh, we can't do this one because of this reason or whatever it was. Just having the plethora of choice. But with Lord Owl, it was interesting coming and going, oh, well, we got to build from the ground up. We're
Mhm.
basically brand new. We got to prove ourselves in the scene. But we have a really, really good product. The music sounded really good. And we as players, we've been playing together for a really long time. So it's super tight.
Yeah.
And two, the nice thing about it is that with any band, you're going to have your pain points, your drama, all that sort of stuff. But with Lord Owl, we're just the buddies. We've never really had an issue, and so it's nice because this is our hang. For me, it's a double whammy because I get to go work on something and put in time, but really it's just me hanging out with my boys
Totally.
and us doing what we love to do. And so it's easy for us to want to go do that. And what's nice too is bringing John back on for bass, and it's nice because now it's like, oh, okay, well we're doing multiple times a week because we know we need that. We know we wanted to be that tight. And we're not doing the once a week practices anymore. Now it's like, okay, we've got to be beaten multiple times, making sure everything stays sharp. And that's what we were doing back when Fault Paradox was in the heyday. So it's good to have guys that are willing to do the work, because I think that's one of the things that really comes across in being a band that most people really overlook is that yes, it is fun, yes, it is a hang, and yes, it literally is the one thing that we love to go do. But I've been to so many band practices with, I've been in a lot of bands too. It happens, and I've been to many band practices, hanging out with other bands. It's like 90% hang time,
Yep.
10% playing, and if you're
They
playing
even
your
make
favorite
it.
songs. Yeah, if you even make it, and that's a big one. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's just every band has that, like, oh great,
Yeah.
we're not even. And so it's tough to balance all those things when you
Yeah.
find a group of guys that are all on the same page that are like, hey, let's show up, let's do the work. Like tonight when we're showing up, I told them, I was like, hey, I got school afterwards, so we're gonna literally show up, like, no real hanging out, we just got to go straight down to the bomb shelter room and get it done. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure, we'll be done in an hour. So, it's about putting in the reps and the work, even though a lot of times, it's like when you go to practice any instrument. Of course, you want to do the same lick. That's fun. Of course, you want to play the same beat. That's always this. But there's so much time that if you really want to step into that and call yourself a professional, really the only thing that I would say make it constitutes anybody as professional is if you put in the professional amount of hours.
Yeah.
If you treat it like a part-time job, then I guess it's kind of a part-time job. But if you, like, for me too, so much of it now is not just the creative side, which is the fun part for me.
Yeah.
Now it's the logistical side. It's the side of getting coordinating with people. Now I'm having to go, like, and two, like, for me, it's funny as a metal singer, I'm actually kind of shy. So when you first meet me, I was like, oh, yeah, hi, and so it's hard for me to have to be like just bursting it over, like, I
All
want to play a
right.
show here, like,
Totally.
who are you gonna talk to play a show in this joint? And it's tough to want to do that stuff. So I think it's cool that I get the opportunity to be very humbled and I get to start from ground zero with this. But I have a very keen idea where I want this to go and the path that we're going to take, and really looking forward to doing it and building here in the Treasure Valley too. We have total plans to get out and really tackle the Northwest like we used to, and get into the Utah markets and out east a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so those are all in the plans, but realistically, you got to build at home first.
All right.
And what I've really been excited about is when I first started the process of like looking at venues. And now you go on my phone, there's this list of every band that's in the area, and if I know them, the people that, who you talk to this guy, he's kind of the band leader, or you talk to this guy, this is their manager and coordinates their shows or whatever. Getting to learn all that stuff is daunting. I'm very kind of hat in hand about it when I'm doing it, just like, oh, just here to collaborate. They want to play a show, sort of deal. But the more people I get to know, the more I get to see that this really is a big community. And the other side of it too is I was a little perturbed because when I first came into it, I didn't know really of a ton of venues out there to play here. And after really putting my nose to the ground on this thing and taking a look at what's out there, there's a ton of venues
A ton.
and a ton of them. And so it's just about making them work for what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so I've been really lucky to have, some people that I knew over at the Knitting Factory that helped me to get that booked. And I was like, oh, great. Oh, thank God. I still, guy I used to work with is like, oh, no, you got to talk to this guy. That's cool. And so it's like about building those little blocks and going, okay, well, what's this venue all about? What, because each venue has its own vibe. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
venues out there. There's a ton of bands. And I really think that if we all work together, we can really build the scene into something that's quite a bit more collaborative than it is.
Yes.
And I think, like, too, like I had mentioned, I went to Nashville recently and loved it. It was awesome getting to spend a few days down there. And I went out every night to try to soak up as much music as I could. And it was impossible to do it all because there was so much. And
Yeah.
then going, and one of the things that, it was tough for me as a musician, having been born and raised and been kind of as a musician built my entire career here in the Treasure Valley, is that Boise's actually been a really, really tough place to establish and to work as a musician.
Interesting.
Kind of feels like when you get out of the Treasure Valley, it kind of feels like you're running with weights on, you know? And so and you're like, oh, this is different. But then there's another side to it too, where when I was in Nashville, I was so enamored by it all. Oh my God, look at all this music. But then I had to really go, I didn't hear one single original song the entire time I was there.
Mm,
I went out every single night. And every night they were walking around with the tip jars with the Venmo code on them, going like, hey, here you go. But basically what you would do is you're just a working jukebox. People could go on the
yeah.
app on their phone and select Zombie by the Cranberries. And then, when okay, looks like we got Zombie. Okay, boys, spin it up, Zombie.
Wow.
And so that was every venue. And so I go,
Wow.
well, it's all relative because for me, I could go over there and work in that environment. That's a lot of fish all working for the same food,
Yeah.
and a very competitive environment. If you show up
Yes.
sick or don't show up to a show or something like that, I can imagine you just not getting asked to any of the places again. So
Right.
whereas here, it's much more relaxed when it comes to that
Hmm.
side of things, but there's maybe not as many opportunities to really churn out a lot of stuff. But what I've noticed is I've been talking to venues, they're all booked through.
Yep.
It's like, which is great. It means every Friday and Saturday for all these venues is booked up solid for 2, 3 months. I'm like, that's great.
Yep.
Now, how do we as a scene really celebrate that and start to advertise it a little bit more so people know there's opportunities? One of the other things about being born and raised here is I met a lot of people who have moved to the area. And one of the prevailing things that always kind of struck me as odd was they go, well, there's nothing to do. And I was like, there's tons to do here.
Be
What do you
something to
mean
do.
do?
Be like
Yeah, and
music. There's
so,
always something to do.
right. And so it's like, well, every venue here is booked solid for the next
Yeah.
3 months. You might think about going out and checking out a show. So I
Yeah.
think it'll be interesting how all this pans out. But I'm really excited. I think we're in a very new and exciting era for music here
I
in
agree.
in the area. I think that people are more collaborative than ever, and we can keep
Hmm.
building on that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of shows we can build, and maybe
Hmm.
even more festivals. Like we just did the MASH festival. That was huge. The Musicians Against Self Harm, and I loved that. It was cool to
Awesome.
see all
Yeah.
these people come together. And I was like, yeah, how can we put more shows like this together? And one of my favorite things that we had done quite a bit is playing these charity and benefit concerts,
Yeah.
raising money for people. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Let's go do that. Like how can
Yeah.
it's like, who has a cause? Do you have a cause? Get over
Yeah.
here. Like,
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think I love our scene. I've been a part of it for like 20 years, before Hendrix was born. And I see it get more and more collaborative and supportive. I've seen the support just grow, especially just even the last like year. I would love to do like or find someone to do like a documentary on the Boise metal scene because I do think it
yeah,
can somewhat maybe not compete, but I feel like when I think of the Seattle grunge or I think of the LA punk, I feel like the Boise music scene really has something special that is unique, and maybe it's just because I don't know, I've been a part of it for so long, but I do feel like there's something that's documentary worthy for our scene, especially as much as it's grown and as it continues to grow. I think that'd be a really interesting project.
I think that would be great. I'd buy tickets to that. We got to get somebody to get on board, and then we'll do it.
Or right, that knows how to do
We'll
that
uh,
kind of stuff. I have the idea.
we'll
That's
uh,
all I
we'll show
got.
it at the Egyptian. We'll have
That
metal
would be
bands
so cool.
open and close before it. I can see it all in my mind now. So,
Or
uh,
do a punk, a rock, and a metal.
yeah,
Do a mix or and have a singer song like have Landon, singer
yeah,
songwriter in there too. Like all of them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just the scene as a whole, and I think too, like with the metal scene in particular, it's like I'm thinking about what would be in that documentary, and one of the things I think you would have to have would be like the Rock the Mountain days, and like just like
Yeah,
you could have your own documentary on just Rock the Mountain,
totally.
and because that was such a personification of the entire scene. Because I remember,
Mhm.
like, sure, there's a little bit of stuff that went on over the years. I mean, you put a bunch of metalheads up in the mountains drinking beer, and things going to happen once or twice. But what I remember
Right.
about what was so magical about that was we had a buddy of mine who moved from a pretty rough town and grew up pretty hard, and he was always just like, "Hey man, we can't go down to the corner store. We're gonna get jumped." We're like, "Dude, this is boys, should chill out." And so that's changed a little bit since then. But I think that
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain was a really good example of that because you know for how many people went up there and for how rowdy that thing was, like really nobody got hurt. And,
Yeah.
nobody really caused any problems.
No.
I
A brother and
remember,
sisterhood.
yeah, I remember going to other festivals that were up in like the same area, and cops were just all throughout the whole thing. And, there was always just all these problems, and people were stealing and doing everything else. But then
Jeez.
you go to Rocky Mountain, the cops were out on the road and they're telling, waving, and like personal or private security handled everything.
Yeah,
But with the idea in mind, one of my favorite things about metalheads is they're kind of self-policing
totally.
because it's the things I think metal and punk
Explain it.
rock really share is a sense of justice, like a sense of
Mm-hmm.
collective justice. Like we don't like bullies and we don't
Mm-hmm.
like, people getting picked on and all that stuff. And two, most of us, especially put us in a group, like we can be pretty, hey, knock that off, sort of
Hey,
thing, like get
yeah.
away from them. And
Yeah.
oh, a bunch of big scary metalheads all of a sudden. It's like we all own cats, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the metalhead with the kitten is such a
All
thing,
right.
that I think about all the time. And so it was cool because you somebody screwing around and other people were like, get out of here, man. Like
Mhm.
I remember one Rock the Mountain, somebody snuck into our camp and was literally trying to go through our coolers and stuff. And one of my buddies is like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, this is my cooler. He's like, no, it's not. That's my buddy's cooler. And next thing you know, like all the neighbors are like, get out of here, man. Like it's the whole thing of like this guy could have caused a real problem, but instead, the we
Was
just
his
policed it.
cooler.
Oh, yeah, right. It turns out it was his cooler. He's like, that's not my cooler. What are you talking about? But it's just so funny how it could have been such a big deal and ended up just being
Yeah.
just fine because
Mm-hmm.
we were able to police ourselves, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's with kind of a sense of everybody has that sense of justice that they just want to. They're just here for the love of music. They just want to have a
Yep.
good time, and they don't
Yep.
need any of your nonsense. And I think the other side of that too is most metalheads and punkers, when it comes to being around their show or their scene or their venue or their event, is also like, dude, keep it down. Like, this is a good thing. We don't want people coming
Yes.
and shutting this down. Like,
Oh my
no,
gosh,
officer,
yes.
we're good, we're good. Yeah, he's just a little drunk, like this sort of
Yes.
thing. Like, no, don't mess with us. We'll be quiet. We'll turn her down. Most of the time it's just like, dude, we don't want to ruin our good time.
No, for
We're here
sure.
to, yeah,
That's a very interesting thought because to play off of that, the Satanic Panic, in the 80s, 90s, metal always had a really bad rap. It still kind of does if with people that don't understand it or don't like they're like, oh, they're a bunch of Satanists because you like heavy stuff or they're depressed or they're angry or whatever.
right,
And so that's yeah, like that's really interesting. Yeah, we kind of are like, hey, this is a pure, beautiful, wonderful thing that we all take so personally and cherish so much. Don't ruin it
yeah.
more
It's
than it
it's
already is.
sacred. It really is sacred. And I've seen plenty, especially there's some punk bands where it gets rowdy. That's kind of the MO of punk, though, is like
Yeah.
disrespect your surroundings sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I get that, but for the most part, it's like I don't want to mess with the venue. I want to
Yeah.
come back here and play another show here.
Yeah.
Like why would I cause a problem?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think so much too, talking about our time at the knitting factory, we always used to say the same thing, Happy Metal Day, because
Yeah.
you'd have groups that come through that were nightmares to work with,
Mm-hmm.
nightmares. Never a metal band. If it was a
Mm-hmm.
metal band, you knew you were going to have an easygoing day.
Yep.
And like maybe security had to bounce a few guys that were drunk or whatnot. Don't they have to do that? But
Mm-hmm.
actually, for the most part, kind of the same thing. The pit kind of polices itself for the most
Yep.
part. I'm sure you can have a show or two that gets off the rails, but for the most part, they were like, hey, this
Yeah.
is going to be an easy day. Everybody's going to be
Yep.
chill. All the musicians are going to be humble and on time and working hard and stuff. And two, they don't ask for ridiculous things. Some of the like
Mm-hmm.
pop groups will ask for you like, you want what? It's kind of like the scene from Wayne's where it's like, needless to say, Ozzy got his 10,000 brown M&Ms and went on to play one of the best shows of his career. It's like you didn't have ridiculous requests from any of the metalheads.
Right.
Like
They're just happy to be
uh,
there and happy to
they're
play.
like, "There's water, neat. There's running water, cool." Like, like nice.
We
Right?
don't have to drink from the hose outside.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to. Like
So true. Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of like we ask security guards, me and Hendrix, all the time, even though we know what the answer is. We're just out of curiosity. Every venue we go to, we'll be like, okay, so how do you feel during the metal night? Oh, this is the night I get to relax. And we've
Yeah.
asked like, what are the nights that are usually the most difficult? And the number one answer that we've found across the board has been country shows. They have the
They get
hardest
too
time with.
they get too drunk, too rowdy. And what's funny is like me too, talking about my country kind of
Yeah,
upbringing. It's
right.
like, but that's a different scene altogether. You go to, well, say Nashville, you go down, you listen to some country. The chances of something popping off there are going to be born out of most folks that are into that kind of stuff. Not to genre everybody or put them into a pigeonhole, but just to
Yeah.
generalize, I suppose. Is let's say I go to a country show that, and because I used to be a bouncer and stuff, I used to have to read the room and all that sort. So with that kind of experience in mind, when I'm in a country bar, I'm more likely, I feel more likely to get in a tuffle with somebody or
Mhm.
tussle with somebody than if I'm at a metal show. And why is
Interesting.
that? And I think is at a metal show, you kind of have the, like you get knocked into, you're like, whoa, whoa, and like, oh, sorry, man. Like it's
Yeah.
more kind of that punk rocker
Yeah.
justice is built into that.
Hmm.
Whereas you
You
go to a country
expect
show,
it.
yeah, I think the reason that you're actually more than likely to get in a tussle at a country show is because it's not as big a deal. Because I grew up with a bunch of country boys. We just used to rough and tumble all the time. You just not beat the crap out of each other, but I mean, we're slugging each other hard, like just be like, "Oh, shut up," sort of stuff. And so it's more of a rough lifestyle. And not
Hmm.
only that, but they'll fight and they'll get on and they'll wrestle around on the ground. Then they get up and then they dust each other off and then they go get a beer together.
Right.
And so that's
Totally.
the side of it. It's like fighting is almost sometimes a little more built into the culture. Whereas for metal, it's like, no, we save it for the pit. And in the pit, it's
Yeah.
controlled because you can be
Right.
outside the pit.
Yeah.
And what's fun, my favorite thing to do now that I don't, after Trivium, I don't want to try again because I don't want to break my back.
And they're coming back the end of this month.
Yeah, I
Are
know.
you
I'm
gonna
like,
get
oh,
back in there? Get in there for
I don't
ginger
know.
instead.
I gotta just start warming up, get my like Rocky
Right.
Balboa, thing going. Maybe we'll
Do
find out.
your
If you see
stretches
me
for
with a
sure.
head guard and like wristbands, I'm all like, all right, here we go, boys. Like on the edge of the pit, you'll know I'm ready. I'll put some training in though first. But yeah, it's like the idea of that's all happening in the pit, but it's controlled. And what I love to do now is I love to watch the pit.
Hmm.
From the relative safety of the balcony with my drink. I'll be like, yes, behold, I'm one of those guys now. Like, what are you doing up there? Get down here. I'm like, I'm good.
Oh,
Like,
oh my gosh. I
oh, we
agree.
good. You have fun. I'm gonna buy a T-shirt. Like, but it's I love watching it because you'll see it right on the edge of your pit, like little
Yeah.
kids, where it's like, dude. And I remember being the big muscly dude on the edge of the pit, and I used to
Blocker.
love to be one of the guys, one of the blockers that
Yeah.
like kept the form of it. And
Yep.
of course, some of the guys in the pit take the blockers as a real. They're like, they come right for you. You're like, oh, you know. But I
I'm
love
first
watching
and
it
little
because
Sammy, not me.
I used to be one of the guys who'd be like, "You stay right here, little one. No, don't worry. All right, yeah. He's like, all right, all right, there's a kid over here, sort of stuff." It's so funny to watch the total culture of it. And one of
Yeah.
my favorite things to do from watching from my now, like my ivory tower seat, is like
Totally.
thinking
Oh
that
God, I'm
I'm
the
like,
same way.
yeah, yeah,
I'm the
I'm
same
just
way.
like, no, more drinks, please. Keep them
Right?
coming. But like as I'm watching the whole thing, I love watching, especially a younger generation come in having like their parents
Yes.
bring them to the show, be like, "Behold, this is my favorite band." The kid's like, "Oh yes, I see why." And then they get to
Yes.
see everything else, and just seeing
Yeah.
them like you could as you're watching the show, you can just see them bathed in the light of the
Yes.
show, and just watching their like faces, be like, "Oh, this is it." It's
You
like
could almost watch them fall in love with it and have
yeah,
that experience.
and just seeing the proud Papa Bear be like, "Yes,
Yes.
yes, behold."
Yeah.
It's such a rite of passage, and I think it's what's built in. And
Mhm.
so for us, yeah, it's like yeah, these bouncers a lot of times. I won't say all the time because I've done that too. There are times when a metal show does pop off and somebody does fight. It can be pretty brutal. It's like trying to separate, cats fighting. Honestly, it's kind of like, oh, don't get your hand in there,
Yeah.
like. So it's
Just
not to
right
say that
forward.
we're all. Not to say it's all wine and roses and everybody's always minding their P's and Q's, but
Yeah.
with that caveat on in there, for the most part, I think that most people are just like a young kid looking at a show for the first time next to their
Yeah.
parents. You see that this is a wondrous and beautiful thing, but it's also kind of fragile. It needs to be
Yeah.
protected and it needs to be
Hmm.
nurtured. And as you like, what all these big scary people screaming and singing about crazy stuff, quite honestly.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this built out of love? It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's completely brick by brick built out of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I think that most people really feel that sacred bond that it creates, because not only that, but I always like to think of it as like the symbiotic relationship of the Trinity that is the whole scene. You have
Mm-hmm.
the bands who make the music, you have the fans that go to see them, you have the venues that give you a place to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so each piece of that triad is so important in
Yeah.
its unique role. And it's the interrelationships between them that make them so special. But also from town to town to town, it's always different. There are things that are the same, and the industry is very industrialized in that you have, like, everybody knows about your day sheets, everybody knows about your load in times, that sort of stuff. The
Mm-hmm.
protocols that we do that go across all venues, but each town has its own scene, has its own
Yeah.
flavor, has because it's all individuals. It's all built
Mm-hmm.
out of, well, who are the band leaders, who are the venue owners and the bookers, and then who are the individuals that are going to see these bands.
Yeah.
And there's just so much variability between all of those things.
Yeah.
And so what's kind of nice, I think that Boise has a lot of work to do, but I think that the Treasure Valley as a whole has a lot of work to do. But it also feels like a bit of a blank canvas to do a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can continue to build on these things, and eventually we'll
Yeah.
build it to a point where this stuff gets pretty big.
Yeah.
Well, and two, we've seen Boise grow so much so fast,
Yeah.
and having grown up here, it's like I don't even recognize the place
Oh my
anymore.
gosh. Yeah.
I remember being a kid and being like, I can't wait for Boise to be a big town. I was like, oh, well, we're almost there, like
Yeah.
there's the pluses and the downsides that come with
For
that. But
sure.
I think that there's a ton of expansion that's going to be coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that each band and each venue really takes their role into account.
Yes.
And one of the things that we were talking about, Jake from Alaric Radio, he and I've talked about it a lot, where it's just about professionalism. What I touched on earlier too. It's like, what's the difference between you and a professional band? Well, they make their living off of this, and that's not easy to do. You
No.
have to do, if you're not going to be on a label, then there's just a ton of work you got to do. And so realistically, for me, what makes you a professional is, do you act professional?
Yeah.
It's easy to learn all this stuff about load-ins, striking the stage right, stage left, all those kind of like logistical things that and protocols that go into putting on a show. How you act is more important. How do you conduct yourself with other bands and venues and your fans?
Yeah.
That's what makes you a professional, because if at the end of the day a venue and other bands can say, well, they're really easy to work with, you
Mm-hmm.
know, people showed up and they enjoyed it and those guys are easy to work. That's the goal.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
it, but there's a lot of responsibility to learn those protocols and
Mm-hmm.
processes, but also just to conduct yourself professionally. And
Mm-hmm.
it's tough because I've definitely been a poor musician my whole life, and so there's an old meme that went around that it's like, a musician is somebody who piles like 5 grand worth of gear into a $500 car to drive 500 miles to get paid $5. It's
Yeah.
always kind of felt that way, but it's true. When you look around here, I've invested a lot of money in the equipment that I use to put this
Mm.
on. It was something that, of course I love this stuff, so I like to spend the money on it, but at the same time it's tough to buy, like, this Taylor that's right behind me here is my favorite thing in the world. It just sounds amazing, but by the time you get a professional guitar that's really going to sound like the thing that you see on stage for the touring acts, it's like you got to spend some money on it. And
Yeah.
so for me, I'm like, no, this is my precious.
Totally.
Yeah, and I make sure I restring it all the time, and I get it set up, and I treat it with such care. I
Polish the
remember
fretboard.
every time you have a nice instrument, the first time you ding it on something, you're like, no,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
like.
Yes.
But I already got it through. I already dinged it on something. I was like, oh, okay, well, that
Oh
little chip
yeah.
was probably the only one that I ever have, but at least I got it out of the way. But it's
Yeah.
nice doing those things and investing in that side of it. Now,
Hmm.
when I show up, at least I have the gear to say I have the inputs you need. I have
Hmm.
every time I show up, even if it's just me and acoustic guitar, I have my backpack on that has all my cables, spare
Hmm.
microphones,
Yep.
those extra things. That the only reason I bring spare microphones and stuff like that is because I've played venues where, like, you don't have a mic. It's like,
Hmm.
oh,
You don't.
300 miles. We drove 300 miles to find out that you don't have a mic.
All
Guess I'm going
right.
to Guitar Center. Where's Guitar Center?
All
And
right.
so but I learned that the hard way. Now every time I go out, and regardless of what their backline looks like, I make sure I have two, SM58s
Mm,
ready to go.
yep.
It's something to be spoke of, like redundancies, learning little tidbits like that, like drummers
Mhm.
bring in an extra snare and an extra kick pedal, because that's what breaks. You can do the rest of the thing, but if you don't have your snare and your kick, the rest of this thing ain't going to work. So you got to have a spare on standby that you can change out really fast in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Having a spare guitar as a guitar player. Hey, if you have one, you should probably bring two, just in case you break a string, and just new guitar, plug right back in, you're back at it. If you
I,
can learn those things and
yeah.
practice them too,
Yeah.
to where it's not like, oh, I broke a string, and you're
Yeah.
fumbling. Like man, there was one I felt like a rock star. I was like, whoa, new guitar. And it's like
Yeah.
barely missed a beat, and I was like, all right, we're back in the
All
race.
right, we're good.
And
Oh, my
yeah, you're just like,
ex-husband was terrified of that happening, so he always would bring a spare. But
yeah,
I always forget what the haunted stagecoach show.
yeah.
He obviously we're still friends. He broke a string and did not have a backup, and I was like, I
No,
cannot believe you didn't have a backup because this is like your
that's funny.
worst night, and he's been playing for decades. I'm like, how did you not have a
And
backup?
that's how it gets you. That's
It
how it gets you.
happened.
You'll bring that back up, and it's
It'll never
you
happen.
never need it. That
Yep.
moment you need it, you're like,
Yep.
oh god,
Yeah.
it's the worst. But yeah, it's those little things, and I think that we have a lot of talent. What's cool is
Yeah.
to see how many bands are here right now,
Yeah.
and
There's a lot.
all the same players are out doing the same stuff.
Hmm.
It's really cool to see Karen Comes Killing and those guys. They're still just like heavy at it with all the things that they had been doing. Final Underground and all of them, like just still just chugging right along with everything, man. And it's tough because we've lost some people too. I think about
Yeah.
Stymie, and I think
Hmm.
it was really sad to see stuff like that happen.
Hmm.
But there's also, it showed how much love there was in the whole industry for that. Where it's like, I've often wondered that to myself, was be like, man, what would happen, if something were to happen to me? And then, I don't think I would have. I don't think I get a tribute show like Stymie did, but like seeing that, how many people went out to that and how that was this
Yeah.
massive deal, that was so moving to go,
Hmm.
wow, this is what our community really is. It's
Hmm.
just built off a lot of people doing a lot of cool stuff and just loving
Yeah.
what they do. But
Yeah.
it's cool to see others celebrated and making and stuff like this. Like, I really love what you're doing here, and it's so cool to see.
Thank
Especially when you kind of put out a flag going, hey, I want some people to interview, and having basically people who are like, just
You know
jumping
what's
for
so funny? I have been asking people for the last few years in the local scene if they'll do interviews, and they'll be like, "Yeah, totally," and then I never hear from them again. And so I got
Yeah,
to a point to where I was just like, locals just don't want to, and that's fine. Like that's totally fine.
yeah,
So when then Jake got on board, and when he started like becoming a part of it, I make this joke a lot. I'm like, I guess I just needed some testosterone on the job because it was not happening for me. And as you know, like I interview big people. And so I'm like, why are you guys not wanting to book with me?
yeah,
Now I'm like, I don't have enough time for you.
yeah. I know. Well, for me, when I saw it, when I said, hey, I'll do it, and you were like, sure, let's get something scheduled. It's like, oh no shit, yeah, let's go. Like, I'm excited. I
Well,
want to
you
be a
were
part
one
of
of
that
the
stuff.
ones I put higher up for a few different reasons. First, because I love Fault Paradox so much. I love your vocals so much. And so I
Thank
definitely
you.
wanted to chat with you. Plus, April's one of my best friends and she
Oh, I
just
love
loves
April.
you. And so I was
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna move him up. But yeah, there's a lot of people I'm having to be like, I need to take a breather.
yeah, right. Well, that's good. It's a good problem to have, and I
It
think
is.
so much of what you said is like, you're like, well, okay, anybody? I think it's a lot of ADHD and herding cats with
Yeah.
the locals. And I think that's kind of goes back to what I was saying about, well, there's a responsibility to the bands to step up and be professional.
Yeah.
And it's just that, honestly, half of being professional, because I'm a businessman, I'm a salesman, so I got to be very professional in my
Yeah.
my work life. And so for me, that's being accountable, answering your phone, getting back, following up with people, answering emails. I mean, this whole booking thing that I'm like, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to promote. I didn't want to put shows together, because now it's on me. Now
Ah,
I'm liaising with the
and it's a
venue. Now I'm
lot of
working with the
work.
venues. Yeah. So for me, I'm going, there's so much going on. but it's all answering emails. It's all I'm using the stuff that I do in my professional life to actually move this along. And I think that's so much of what a lot of people don't understand is the work that goes into being to working with music. Is there's the part that we like, which is playing
Mm-hmm.
and jamming. Specifically, I won't even call it playing or practicing. I'll call it jamming. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
all know what that is.
Yeah, for sure.
Just making noise with
Goofing
the
off.
instruments together to get some dopamine going.
Yeah.
And so where a lot of bands struggle is to put in work. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, I set aside time every day. I try to set aside at least a half hour, if not 45 minutes to an hour, to just go like, what email do I got to get back to? What group chat do I need to focus on? Do we have this lineup? Do we're working on the flyer now? How's that coming along? All those sort of elements, they all come together. And I think that that's the work that's hard to do because it feels
Right.
like a job. It,
Yeah.
it feels like I'm
Oh,
answering.
totally.
And then here's the rub, and this is the part that makes it so hard, is now what exactly what we are saying. And this is true of all musicians, including myself. So it's not talking junk, it's just calling us what we are. We're flakes a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it is for fun, if you got it's all coming down to a lot of the bands that you see that are successful are like what we got now, where we got all three members that are fired up. Hey, let's do multiple practices a week. Let's put in this time. Let's put in this work. And even having to say, hey guys, this isn't for fun. This is we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
sit, we're gonna do work, and then I'm gonna bug out. And it's like, okay, that's what we need to do. That's hard to find.
Yeah.
Finding a band that everybody's all the same amount of motivated all the
Yeah.
time is just really, really special to find
Yes.
because it is kind of rare because everybody has life and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would put out there to all the bands that so is exactly what you said, using your experience as an example, being like, look, I put the flag out to people saying, hey, I want to interview locals, but then I had no locals really willing to get back to me. Let's use that as a springboard to say, hey, everybody, and myself included, you got to step it up. That's what we got to do to make this different. Is you got to be accountable. You got to, and two, like here's the other side of this. I asked a few different bands for these two shows who would want to do it or who was available. And being available is half the battle, but
Right, for
there's so
sure.
much that goes into it. But
Mm-hmm.
if you just get back to me with no, we can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
that's just as valuable as telling me
Oh,
yes, because I can
absolutely.
go, okay, cool, you're not available, not a problem. I literally put it right
Next.
here. Next,
Yeah.
hey, in the meantime, hit me up if you have anything you want me to do, but I will leave you alone for now. And then I put
Mm-hmm.
like a little note, say, hey, leave them alone until maybe this date. And then if you have shows, then I'll start bugging them again. But
Yeah.
two, I go down the list and, there's some of them that, says hiatus right on there. There's a couple guys, hey, we're not really doing anything right now. Okay, hiatus, I won't bug you. Telling me no is just as important. And sometimes people, well, I don't want to
Absolutely.
disappoint me because it doesn't. I just need to know logistically what's going on
Yes.
because that helps. That makes it to where I was able to, and I'm so grateful I got that this time because I haven't had that in the past. Where I
Yes.
asked at first, it was kind of like what you were dealing with all the interviews. Is I literally go like, I needed basically four bands, but I asked eight
Mm-hmm.
kind of with the idea that I knew that they would triple down. But then all of a sudden it looked like almost all eight were going to say yes. And so I was like, oh, now I'm going to have to start making cuts. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. And I was like, I honestly didn't expect you all to answer the affirmative. But
I
then
was too.
fortunately, like, exactly what I thought was going to happen. And it was like, hey, we're not available this day, but thank you. And I was just every time like, thank you for getting back to me so
Yes.
quickly
Yes.
because I got really lucky that instead of this taking me months to book, it took me a couple of days. And I was like, oh,
Yes.
well, what's the catch? I'm kind of like looking around like, where's the shoe going to drop? Because that was too easy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so to all bands out there, I think it's really easy for us to start stepping everything up and to start making a real big difference in our own community. And it's going to be through things like this. I think that the community outreach piece of it is important. And that, I'm absolutely humbled and totally stoked to be a part of this because this is a part of this whole community.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like, great. Now you've given me a platform to get our voice heard, our story heard, and to help build some hype over what we got going on.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have channels where people are talking about it. And so the other thing too is that I've talked before about the moniker of local band and how I didn't really look at that with the most positive light. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really because I think that what do you say? Well, it's just a band.
Yeah.
You got to say, well, they're from here. It's
All
basically
right.
what it is. but then you automatically get taken down from world band to local band. And
Right.
so, but I realized that that's not on the moniker of, what we are in that place. It's our duty to rise us up collectively as a whole to where that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now it just means you're from here, is basically what I'm getting. I want to change it to where it becomes that because we're putting out
Yeah.
such professional, high end product. We're putting on such good shows that you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always loved about Fault Paradox, and I think a lot of our fans have really enjoyed this story, is that there's been a lot of times where I always told the boys, I go, just don't tell them we're from here. It's as simple as that. It's not a lie. We never lied about it. We just never said. We just never brought it up. That we were from Boise, and I think a lot of our success came from at first people thought we were a touring act, and it's because I just think that we were asked on, so where are you guys from? Oh, we're just from around, we'd always kind of like say, oh, Northwest. We never said where we were from. And like, I remember that actually the Trivium show, we got to open, I mean, right back here, we got to open for Soulfly. I mean, we got a lot of really cool shows, and people thought we were on tour with the band,
That's
and we
cool.
just never told them otherwise.
Yeah.
But I think that had a lot to do with the way we comported ourselves
Mhm.
and presented ourselves.
Mhm.
And we were fortunate that three of the members worked in the industry and we saw bands all the time. And
Right.
so we knew how to act professional. And
Yeah.
so we were like, actually, this isn't hard. Just act like you know what you're doing
Totally.
and be professional, just be
Yeah.
polite, be on time, show up, work hard, be honest. I mean, the same thing you would do at a regular job. And so it is interesting. If you just carry yourself that way, I think that we could change the way that local bands are perceived altogether.
Yeah.
And I'd like the thing is that what really kind of perturbs me about the whole deal is that I really feel like the Boise scene is positioned to be like an Austin, Texas. It
Ah.
could be a Nashville. It could be one
Mhm.
of these great music towns if
Mhm.
we just all built the scene a little bit more. But we're going to have to take a lot of work because of a lot of elements that we discussed earlier. But if we all put in the work and we all start acting like we know what we're doing, and start getting back on emails and things. And I think it's great because now, to kind of wrap up that thought, is you put up the flag and now you got too many interviews to handle. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, great. Well, now we can go through this, and then by the time you're done getting with everybody, then it'll be time to start the circuit again. You
Right.
know, what I would love to see too is like if we could get some sort of a round table together with like 4 or 5 different like kind of reps from different bands, and
Yeah.
have a group discussion about things, and
It's a great
that
idea.
would be cool. Because what's fun is that working with all these different bands over the years is that we all become friends and we all know each
Mm.
other, and
Mhm.
it's always like, hey man, I haven't seen you forever.
Yeah.
It's funny for me because the guys in Faded Leroy, because we share a room together, but I haven't seen them in person in forever. And so it's like funny, we're always two ships in the night. And
Yeah.
so it's gonna when we get there, we're gonna be in the room together breaking down for the
Yeah.
show, and it's gonna be a good time. We're just gonna be
Yeah.
laughing and joking and talking junk and all that.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff we can't wait. I'm just looking forward
Mhm.
to it and just can't wait to be a part of again. And it's like, how do we take that, bottle it, and
Yeah.
somehow just sprinkle it along the Treasure Valley music scene is needed, like a little
Yes.
spice or garnish. And I'm trying to make music that, again, I'm trying to hold ourselves to a high standard, making the best music that I possibly can. Making sure we act that professional way when we're out there. Make it I want to make it the easiest day the venue has ever seen. I want them to go, man, that was nice. Well, can't wait to see you guys again because that was just
Yeah.
so fun, so easy, and everybody loved it so much. And that's what I'm really after, and I think that we can all achieve that. It's a little extra work and elbow grease, but we got we got the best group of guys and gals in the world doing this stuff, and it's so cool to see, especially new bands coming out,
Yes.
and guys like Jake really out there. I mean, he is an
Mhm.
unsung hero because he's
Mhm.
putting in so much work,
Yes.
so much work. And I mean, trust me. I mean, I didn't want to book these shows by myself. I was begging for anyone. I was like, I'll pay you money. I'll pay you handsomely,
Yeah.
whatever fee you decide, if you will book shows for me, because I don't want to do it,
Right.
and then, but the problem is, well, I won't call it a problem. The thing is that we're in Boise. and
Mhm.
there's really not a call for that. And so realistically, there's only a handful of people like Jake that are putting that sort of stuff
Mhm.
on. And so it's up to us because I think some of the things I've heard, and not from Jake, but actually from other promoters in the past, it's funny, this is the Fault Paradox days. Kind of what I said earlier is these guys will do all this to build a show, and then the bands won't do
Don't
anything
advertise, yeah,
at
all
all.
the
And I
time.
mean, and you're like,
And
okay, well,
sometimes
what'd you
venues
expect?
don't either. There's a few venues out there that don't advertise the shows either.
Yeah. And so it's up to us to really get it out there that this is a thing. And two, we're in the era where everyone is looking down at their phones, and it's
Hmm.
brutal to see on a daily basis. I think
Hmm.
I see the society we're in, and it makes me really sad to see that. But I also understand, like, oh, our attention is being grabbed at from so many
Hmm.
powerful sources
Yeah.
and things that are literally designed like slot machines to drag you in.
Hmm.
What chance does a musician have,
Hmm.
against such a powerful beast? And but at the same time, it's almost like something that like out of a movie in my head. It evokes these images of some great beast or demon that's defeated by music, like, Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny, where it's like, with the power of our rock, we shall defeat him. And
Yeah.
because it's like, well, I guess what I'm getting at is that in my head, I go, well, that just means I'll have to sing louder then. What isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so that's kind
and
of,
thankfully music is something that everybody it's a language everybody speaks. It's all across, it's all across the world. It's
yeah,
something everybody loves, and almost everybody loves and holds very, very precious. It's there for us when nobody else is there. It's the catharsis. It's our therapy away from therapy. So just figuring out how to use the music to get people's attention even more, because it's already built in us that we want
yeah,
it and we need it.
yeah, absolutely. I think you're totally right. And it is, it's something that's universal in a human being.
Hmm.
And every culture has music of different kinds, but you know, there's what was it, the Miss US or Miss World or whatever, the from Chile.
Chili?
She's yeah, she's
Yes.
a metal singer, and then
Death
there's
metal
the
vocalist.
prime minister of Japan, was it, is a metal singer. I'm like,
Yes.
this is our time. This is
Yes.
our
It's
time.
all
Like
coming
saying it.
together.
Yeah. So, and it's cool because it's actually is true. One of the things that like tattoos are really common now. It's like so much that was counterculture when I was growing up
Yeah.
is now so commonplace. And so I think
Hmm.
that the lines have kind of bled through where people are willing to be like normally. People are like,
Hmm.
oh, metal, no, ooh, terrible, terrible, terrible metal. But now they're like, oh, that's pretty catchy. So
Yeah.
it's about making it accessible, maybe not commercializing it, but making it more accessible
Hmm.
to everyone. And I think
Yeah.
it's never been more accessible. And I think it's never been more kind of understood that's like, metal is like a cool thing that it's like most of the time I remember when I was a kid, they'd look at you like a metalhead and they're like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
what's this nefarious guy doing over here? What
We got
trouble is he about to
so
start?
much crap for being a
I'm
metalhead
like,
in teenage years and junior high and high school. So much crap. I felt like I was like I stuck out like a sore thumb. So much crap.
I'm like, all I want to do is skateboard and play D&D with my buddies, man. Like, I'm actually pretty harmless, all things
All
considered.
right.
Yeah, we listen to Iron Maiden and King Diamond and some weird stuff, but we're pretty harmless. I
Yeah.
remember too, because both my parents are teachers, and my dad was always a really, really strong supporter of my music, and it was funny because like he grew up where like it was like doo wop and bebop was like
Huh.
the thing. So like very much like this style of music coming out of the 50s was like we would be
Yeah.
driving in his truck and be like, yeah, how do you like this one? This one's a really nice little ditty, and you're like, all right. So I grew up listening to that stuff, but then he would listen to Corn and Slipknot with me and be like, well, who are these guys? Or Corn, they spelled it wrong. And but I remember being like, I'm going to show him Slipknot. Yeah, we'll see how he does with this, and we'll be like, all right, put on Eyeless and see what's going on. And he's like, oh, this one's really moving. It's so I
Oh.
grew up around someone who was so accepting of different music,
Mhm.
and I'll never forget one of my best moments was actually a Fault Paradox show at the Knit, and it was one of the first times that we had actually like we were headlining the Knitting Factory, and so it was a big deal. And my mom and my dad showed up, and they said, "Well, we have our tickets, but what would it take to like upgrade to VIP?" And I remember they were like, "Oh no, oh your son's in the band? Oh no, free of charge, and they upgraded them for free.
Oh, I
And so
love
there
it.
I am side stage being all like, all right, here we go, boys. All right. And then I hear, here I and there's my dad. It's like,
Aw,
hey, like, I was like, this is
love
rad,
that.
And so it was
That's so
cool to like
awesome.
have, I was lucky that I was so
Yeah.
supported in my musical journey. Not a
Mm,
lot of people are. And so
no.
it's, those are the kind of things that's like, how can we bring more joy to the world, but also how can we be more accepting of other
Yeah.
genres? And so for me, it goes the other way too, metalheads. It's got to say, hey, well, let's
Yes.
give it a shot. Maybe this
Yep.
electronics track ain't my thing. Maybe this, country song rate ain't my thing. Just give it a shot. Like
Ah.
the thing that because I'm guilty of it. When I was younger, I used to be like, oh no, this
Mm-hmm.
genre sucks. Or
Oh,
I'd be the
same.
first one to start talking so much junk.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, I mean, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all cool to me. Like,
Right.
so the more of that we bring, I think the better off it'll build everything. But no, I think what you're doing here is amazing for our community. I'm very
Thank you.
thankful to you and your efforts, and
Thank
I'm a
you.
big fan, and I continue to watch it. And I think
Thank
it's really
you.
cool that we're getting this wave because that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new wave of
Yep.
participation from the local scene.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, so this is like stage one, and you're a big part of it. Stepping
Yes.
everybody's game up. I think that's holding people accountable to that.
Yes.
But two, they need to see what this is, what you're doing, that this is a
Mm-hmm.
great platform to have a free form conversation about the thing
Mm-hmm.
that we love. And two, to also tackle some of the stuff that we need to handle. Because the
Yes.
only way these things will change is if we take the time to address them, call it what it is,
Yep.
and make a corrective change.
Yep.
And that means we got to do work. That means is we got to do things that we haven't wanted to do in the past. So why are we going to want to do them now? But you're going to have to suck it up and do them.
Yep.
But eventually, we're going to build Boise into. I think it's going to be like Austin 2.0. I
Would
really
be
do. Where
amazing.
it's going to be a little different though. It's not going to be like a Nashville where it's like it's country the whole way, boys. Like you're going to go to Boise, and this is
It
going
is
to
a
be
good,
where.
I think Austin's a good place to think about and go because there's not a specific genre of music that comes out of Austin. It's just a music town.
Yes. And that's exactly what I'm getting at because we got
Yeah.
everything. As I
Yeah.
was building this show, I was looking at everybody and I
Hmm.
want to play shows with everybody. And
Yeah.
so, like, for me, I'm looking at like Dozy Dubs and those guys, the reggae guys, and I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to get a show together with some of those guys and build kind of that show. And then it's like, there's so many ways that we're gonna like just build all these different shows from all over. But
Yes.
then it's like, hey, the metalheads should come check this one out too. I bet
Yeah.
you'll like it.
Yeah.
But eventually we build this place into there's every genre. But not only that, we're gonna do this genre bending show thing, which I'm getting more and more into. Where it's like I kind of want like we need to do shows where it's like all four bands are from totally different genres.
Yes.
Where it's like that would just be so much fun. But yeah,
Yes.
I think that maybe we can get something like that going. But I'll
I
work
love
on
it.
maybe that'll be the next show I book. Is we'll do just totally off the wall, just everybody's everywhere, and then
Love it.
Lord
I
Owl
think it's a great
will
idea.
play a totally schizophrenic playlist where we'll do the
Uh,
heavy and the light, and then we'll do it all. So
yeah,
we'll just
right.
blend it all together.
Put it
Man.
all in together. Oh, I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. No, I'm definitely here for it. Um I'll be excited to hear what you come up with, what you think about, and of course, I'm more than happy to do what I can on my end as well.
Sure. Well, I'll definitely be reaching out to you with other stuff, but standing off or anything that Lord Owl or any of us can do to help you or your efforts, whether
Thank
that's
you.
sharing stuff or just getting it out there. That's what this community is going to do. It's built off, like I said, the relationship between all of the personalities like yourself that are helping to do the marketing because you're the
Yeah,
marketing for this. You're
right.
the voice for this. So where we say, what's going on? What's the state of the
Mm-hmm.
union here? Um, and then yeah, the band's got to step up and help you with stuff that you need too. So
People
matter
can
of
hear
fact,
it. Can hear what
Jake
you're
was just
saying.
talking about putting together a little event where we're talking. I hope I'm not blowing up the spot with it, but we're talking about holding up signs to say like listen to local music and stuff.
I
And
got
I'm
that
like,
message too. That'd be
I think that would
awesome.
be kind of fun. Man. Well, think
Yeah.
about it. If we got enough people to do something like that, if all the Boise musicians showed up, we'd be like a small army. And
Well,
people would be like,
totally.
"What is going on?" And then you can't
Yes.
ignore all of us.
All
like,
right.
we're really loud.
Oh
like,
yeah. In your
so,
face, even if you're trying to
yeah,
avoid it. Yeah. No, I think
yeah,
it's a great idea. I think it's a super great idea. I know that I think you were on the list for Jake's thing like get together later this month too. Um,
yeah.
I feel like I saw your name. But I like that too, just kind of robining and brainstorming different ideas from different
Yeah.
different people, different aspects that are different, like you said, personalities within the music scene. So it's exciting.
Yeah, come together. Yeah, absolutely. We're building it from the ground up, and it's just probably the most exciting time to be in the music scene just in general. I was going to say
Yeah.
metal, but it's just music in general. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
we'll get out there and get her done.
Absolutely. Get her done. Well, thank
There's
you
my
so
country
much for
coming out.
well, that was what is that, Larry the Cable Guy?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm from Rupert, Idaho. I definitely have a little bit of
Yeah,
country in me.
you know all about it, man. You know all about
I cannot
it.
say the word Rupert without putting that like Rupert. And it's funny because I'm
Rupert,
like
yeah,
not a I grew up with like old country, but I'm not like a country girl at all.
yeah,
But it's just that area brings that sound out of me.
it does.
But thank you so much. We'll definitely, yeah, keep in contact. I super excited about where this goes
Yeah,
and what you guys are doing. I'm really excited to see what Lord Owl is coming out with, and I'm very much looking forward to the singles coming out.
beautiful. No, once again, thank you for having me on here. This was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, anytime you want to come and check in, I'll chat with you. So
Awesome.
if you're just bored and you're like, hey, I need somebody to fill a slot, let me know. And maybe we'll get one of those round tables together. We'll play around with it. But no, thank you so much for having me a part of this. Huge for us. We're really looking forward to it. So yeah, the dates we have right now, Ninth Street Parallel, January
The
3rd. So
third.
again, right after New Year's. So we get it. It's
Hmm.
kind of like a little hangover cure. It's kind of like drinking a Bloody Mary in the morning. Just come and check us out on that Saturday. We're gonna have Fade Leroy headlining that. It's gonna be huge. And we're really that's such a cool room, and those guys at that venue are so cool. So that's gonna be huge. And then yeah, in March we're gonna
March.
go in at the end of the month. We got our time. I'm going in tonight to go practice real hard. So
Awesome.
we'll be ready to get this single ready to go. But yeah, March 3rd, sorry, March 6th, sorry, in at the Olympic. We'll be playing that show and
Awesome.
releasing that and putting it on Spotify and Apple Music and all that fun stuff. And that one's going to be a party. That's with our
Awesome.
boys in Los Malos and Whiskey Mountain, and that's going to be a massive show. And so, got some more coming in. I'm going to try not to do too many shows to oversaturate, but come this summer, we're actually really planning on doing a lot of work. We already have lines. We're going to be playing a lot of places that I wouldn't have really considered before. We're going to be playing places like Cascade, Idaho, and McCall, and going up north to those kind of places.
Yeah.
Booking out in Utah, booking out some of those shows out in Eastern Idaho and Utah. Eastern Idaho's always been so poorly neglected, so got to
Yeah.
make sure that all of our Eastern Idaho homies get their fair share. And
Definitely.
yeah, to plenty of stuff. We're just going to be hitting the Northwest here. So this next year is really going to be the year for the Lord Owl. We're just
Hmm.
thankful for everyone in advance and really hoping everybody enjoys it.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for taking this time, and I'm sure I will chat with you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll catch you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.